Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. They told us it was just a gas leak. That's how they always start these things, isn't it? Late-night news anchor, half asleep behind the desk, reading a scripted warning to stay clear of the south side around Bramblegate Hospital. Routine chemical maintenance incident, they said. No cause for alarm. But the camera angle was wrong. His eyes kept drifting off screen, and when he blinked, he didn't blink normal. It was slow. Real slow. Like something behind the lens had him paralyzed. I wouldn't have noticed any of that if it weren't for the static. Right before the broadcast cut out, the screen fuzzed over for about 3 seconds. And in that static, you could hear something garbled. Not speech, exactly. More like breath. Wet, close, and heavy. Like someone was standing just behind you, exhaling right into your ear. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I believed it. Not really. I mean, gas leaks happen. Chemical accidents happen. But my brother Jace worked the night shift at Bramblegate. He was an ER nurse. And the last text I got from him right before that weird broadcast just said, "Don't come here. Don't believe them. It's already inside." I stared at that message for hours. When I tried to call him, it rang once. Then nothing. No voicemail, just silence. Cold and complete. By morning, Bramblegate Hospital was on total lockdown. No media coverage, no helicopters, no ambulances in or out. I even drove by it from a distance. The building looked wrong. It's hard to explain. It wasn't that anything was broken. The windows were intact, the lights were on. But it felt like the place was hollowed out. Like something had scooped the soul out of it and left the shell standing. There was one car in the parking lot, Jace's. I recognized the bumper sticker, a faded caffeine first, then CPR. Classic him. That was when I made the worst decision of my life. I parked down the block, tucked my phone into my jacket, and started walking toward the hospital. Just to check, just to look through the windows. Just to see if maybe anyone would come to the doors. It was early. Cold. The kind of cold that makes your joints ache. The sky had that grayish, lead-heavy look. No wind, no birds, no sound at all. And then, I saw the front door was open. Not all the way, just a crack. It shouldn't have been. I don't know why I went inside. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was stupid bravery. Maybe it was something else entirely, pulling me forward. Whispering in a voice too quiet to notice. Inside, it was even colder. The reception desk was empty. No security, no beeping machines, no voices. Nothing. Just a faint smell. It wasn't blood or anything sharp like that. It was old. Damp, like something had been left in the walls for too long. And it was growing. I pulled out my phone and tried to get a signal. Nothing. That's when I noticed the first sign. A message scrawled in red marker on the reception wall. It read, "They don't die." Right below it, in different handwriting, smaller. The eyes are still moving. I should have turned around. I should have walked right out and never looked back. But then I heard something. A soft tapping. From deeper inside the hospital. Tap, 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 then again. Tap, 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 rhythmic, repetitive. Like someone trying to get your attention. Or trying to warn you. I followed it. Down the hallway, past empty rooms. Some with the doors closed. Others wide open, beds still made. No blood, no mess, just stillness. Like a movie set waiting for the director to call action. The tapping continued. I followed it all the way to the pediatric wing, the place where they kept the children. I remember the mural on the wall, big cartoon animals, clouds with smiley faces, little pastel suns peeking over fake hills. But the eyes on the cartoon animals had been blacked out. Sharpie, all of them, slashed through like someone couldn't stand the sight of them anymore. The tapping had stopped. I turned the corner, and there it was. A single wheelchair turned toward the wall. Someone sitting in it. Still, completely still. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I stepped closer. Their head was tilted down, long hair hiding their face, bare feet. Hospital gown. I asked again, "Are you okay?" And then, the head snapped up. Not turned, snapped, like a puppet yanked upright by invisible strings. The eyes were wide, too wide. There was something wrong with the jaw, too. It looked unhinged, like it had stretched just a little too far. I took one step back. The figure stood. One movement, no pause. No normal transition. 1 second sitting, the next second standing. That's when I noticed the sound again. Not the tapping, the breathing. That same sound I'd heard in the broadcast static. Wet, hungry, close. Too close. I ran. I didn't even think, just turned and bolted down the hallway. And from behind me, I heard a voice. Not loud, not angry. Just 3 words, whispered, "It's not over." I didn't stop running until my legs gave out. At some point, I ended up behind the nurse's station, crouched beneath the counter, trying not to breathe too loud. The whole hospital was silent again, like the walls themselves were listening. I didn't know if that thing had followed me. I didn't want to know. My chest felt like it was filled with ice, and my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. Still no signal. I tried recording a voice memo instead, anything. Maybe if I didn't make it out, someone could piece together what happened. But the app wouldn't open. The screen flickered, glitched, then crashed. It was like the building didn't want me documenting anything. And then I heard something new. Footsteps. Soft, uneven, like a limp. One foot dragging slightly behind the other. Getting closer. Then stopping, right on the other side of the counter. I held my breath. Something exhaled. Long. Slow. Then I heard chewing. I don't know how else to describe it. It was this wet, deliberate sound, like someone gnawing through a cold slab of meat, and mixed in with it this little crackling. Bone, cartilage, something breaking that shouldn't be broken. My stomach turned. I peeked just a sliver through the gap beneath the counter. What I saw didn't make sense. It was wearing scrubs. A nurse. But the skin on its face, unless, was peeling. Not in chunks, it was thin, like plastic wrap. And beneath that layer, something darker pulsed. Veins, too thick. Eyes milky but darting. A tongue too long for the mouth. Every few seconds, it flicked out, tasting the air. And in its hands, no, in its fingers were pieces. Not identifiable, but fresh. The thing didn't chew like a person. It chewed like it was trying to learn the shape of what it was eating. I backed up slowly, inch by inch, praying the linoleum wouldn't squeak. And then my knee knocked over a metal tray. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The thing froze. Its head turned, but its body didn't move. Then it let out this sound, not a scream. It was more like a gasp that turned into a growl, then got cut short. Like it was remembering how to be angry, but hadn't quite figured it out yet. I ran again. This time, down a different hallway, radiology, I think. The lights were flickering now, pulsing like a heartbeat. The walls were wet. Not soaked, just damp, like the moisture was coming from inside the building. I kept seeing shapes move in the corner of my eye. Not people, not exactly. Just movement, a flash of a white coat, a hand disappearing behind a curtain, shadows that didn't belong to anything. And that smell, that thick, damp smell. It was stronger now, like old rot wrapped in plastic. And somewhere behind it all, that breathing. It followed me, always just a step behind, like the building itself was exhaling. I made it to the MRI room and slammed the door shut behind me, locked it, barricaded it with a rolling stool. I slumped down against the far wall, gasping for air, trying not to cry, and that's when I saw the security camera feed. Still active, still running. The monitor showed a handful of hallways, entrances, stairwells, most of them empty, except one. Camera 3. Basement corridor. There were figures, dozens of them, standing still, shoulder to shoulder, lined up like they were waiting for something. Their faces weren't visible, most of them were turned away from the camera, but their bodies were wrong. Some too tall, some hunched, some bent backward like they'd been folded the wrong way and never fixed. Then the screen glitched, just for a second. When it came back, all the figures had turned to face the camera. All at once. They knew I was watching. And then the power cut. Total blackness. No backup generator. No glow from emergency lights, nothing. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. But in the pitch dark, I started hearing voices. Whispers. Low, garbled, overlapping. At first I thought it was in my head. Then I realized they were real, just beneath the door, right outside. Dozens of them. Whispering things I couldn't make out, except one word. Over and over. Feed. I held my breath, curled in the corner, waited for them to break through the door. But they didn't. They were waiting, letting the fear grow, letting me rot from the inside, and somewhere in that chorus of whispers, I heard one voice that chilled my blood. It was Jace. Clear as day. They're using us. Then silence. Total, suffocating silence. And in that silence, I made a decision. I was going to the basement. The stairwell door groaned open like it hadn't been touched in years. There was no sound from below. No lights. Just a black descent, spiraling downward, swallowing everything that stepped into it. I took one last look behind me. The hallways were still empty. No movement, no breathing. Even the whispers had gone quiet, like they'd scattered the moment I made my choice. Then I started down. The air changed on the 4th step. Thicker, wetter. It clung to my skin like invisible cobwebs. And the walls, they weren't smooth anymore. They had texture, not brick, not stone, something softer, like stretched canvas, damp to the touch. I stopped touching them after that. No handrail, no emergency lighting, just my phone's flashlight barely working, glitching every few seconds like the battery was being drained by something invisible. Step after step, the silence deepened, until I heard it, a scraping sound, not behind me, below. Like something being dragged across tile, then a thump, then silence again. I wanted to run back up, but something kept me moving down. Not courage, not instinct, something colder. Like gravity, but emotional. Like I didn't have a choice anymore. The final step opened into a corridor I didn't recognize. I used to visit Jace here when he pulled doubles. I'd seen every floor of Bramblegate at one point. But this place wasn't part of the blueprint. The walls were made of warped hospital doors, laid sideways, one on top of the other, like tiles. Some still had windows. I looked through one and instantly regretted it. There was an eye, staring back, wide, dead, but still moving, It blinked once, then disappeared. I kept walking. There were voices now, not whispers anymore. Chanting, low and garbled, like someone had shoved a sermon underwater and left it on repeat. No words I recognized, just a pattern, pulsing, hypnotic. And then I saw the writing, carved into the door walls with scalpels and broken bones. The flesh remembers. This place is not a place. We are the new broadcast. At the end of the hall, a set of double doors stood wide open, crooked on their hinges. Beyond them, a soft red glow pulsed like a heartbeat. And from within, I heard a voice I hadn't heard since I was 12 years old. My mother. She'd passed away years ago. I stepped into the glow. The room was massive, impossibly massive, like it bent space. No way this could be beneath a hospital. The walls were lined with stacked gurneys piled 5 high, each with something lying under a sheet, but none of them were still. The sheets twitched. Some pulsed. Some moved like something was crawling just beneath the surface. Some whispered. And in the center of the room, lit by a single hanging surgical lamp, was a bed. Not a hospital bed, a child's bed, my bed. Exactly as it was when I was a kid. Blue rocket sheets, glow-in-the-dark stars on the headboard, even the stuffed bear with the torn ear. And sitting on the bed, smiling at me, was my mom. Or something that wore her face. The eyes were wrong. Too bright. The smile too wide, like it had been painted on. The skin on her arms rippled like something was trying to break free from beneath it. She spoke, but not her voice. It came from somewhere inside her. A voice layered over other voices. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all speaking at once, trying to squeeze through the same mouth. You came home. I couldn't move. She stood, stepped forward. Her arms opened like she wanted to hug me. That's when I noticed her feet weren't touching the floor. She floated, just an inch or two off the ground, enough to make your stomach turn when you noticed it. They showed me, she said. What comes next? I saw your future. It's beautiful. Behind her, the gurneys began to twitch harder. Faster. Sheets sliding off. I caught a glimpse, one of the things lying there. It had my face. Not a reflection, a copy, skin pale, eyes hollow, mouth moving silently like it was mimicking me. Then the next gurney, it had Jace. Then another, my father. People who were gone. People who were still alive. All of them. Copied. Stored. Waiting. I staggered back. Mom, or what wore her shape, kept moving forward. Don't fight it, she said. They're broadcasting now, through us, through memory, through blood. The ground beneath me pulsed. The walls began to breathe. And from somewhere, in the ceiling, or maybe the sky, I don't even know anymore, a noise began to rise. A signal. High-pitched. Mechanical, but not digital. It sounded alive. Like something inside the hospital had learned how to scream using wires and voices. And that scream was building towards something. Something that was about to be released. I ran. Through the hallway of eyes. Back up the stairs that didn't seem to end. Up into a hospital that was no longer silent. Now, it was singing. The hospital was singing. Not with voices. With walls. With vents, with machines that were no longer plugged into anything. Every hallway hummed with that eerie, dissonant tone, the kind of sound that doesn't just hit your ears, but sinks into your stomach, your bones, your memory. It was the same pitch from the broadcast. The same static-wrapped noise that had buzzed under the anchor's voice. It was louder now. Like the building was remembering what it was. I staggered down the hallway, past rooms that had changed again. The floor wasn't linoleum anymore. It felt soft beneath my shoes. Spongy, like walking on something that used to be alive. I didn't look down. The doors were still labeled ICU, surgery, psych ward. But nothing inside matched. One room was filled with televisions, old ones. Big, boxy, analog, all turned on, all showing different angles of the same hallway, this hallway, where I was standing. And in each screen, there was someone walking behind me. But when I turned nothing, the next room was filled with clocks. Dozens, hundreds, every wall, every table covered with ticking clocks. But they weren't ticking forward. They were counting backward. Some had already hit 0, and the glass on those faces was cracked. In one corner, I saw a clock with my name scratched into the frame. It was down to 7 seconds. 6. 5. I slammed the door shut and ran. I don't know how long I moved through that maze. The layout kept shifting. Elevators opened into stairwells. Fire exits led to operating rooms. At one point, I swore I passed the same vending machine 5 times, but every time the items inside were a little more rotten. The candy bars were liquefied. The chips looked like they had veins. And on the final pass, the machine didn't take cash anymore. Just flesh. I found a bathroom that hadn't decayed yet. Locked myself inside, splashing water on my face that tasted faintly metallic. I looked in the mirror and for a second it didn't reflect me. It was Jace, but he wasn't smiling. He was mouthing something. I leaned closer. And just before the mirror cracked from the inside, I read his lips. "Get out." A sound came from the hallway. That scraping again. But now there were more of them. Footsteps. Dragging. Shuffling. Some fast, some slow. But all coming closer. And above it all, the singing. Growing louder. I crept to the door, opened it a crack. They were passing by. Not running, not chasing, just moving. Down the hall, like they were being called somewhere, dozens of them. Maybe more. All in hospital gowns, some with IV tubes dragging behind them like tails. Skin pale, some missing eyes, lips, hands, but still moving, like puppets controlled by a broken hand. And every one of them had the same look on their face. This blank, obedient smile, like they were proud to be part of something. Something bigger. Once they passed, I slipped out and followed at a distance. Past corridors that bled light from underneath the doors. Past flickering signs pointing in directions that made no sense. And finally, to the broadcast room. I didn't even know hospitals had those. I guess maybe for emergency announcements, weather alerts, things like that. But this one looked ancient, like it hadn't been used since the 70s. Dust everywhere. A cracked microphone, a reel-to-reel recorder. A broken speaker system that still pulsed with that inhuman frequency. But what drew my eyes was the wall. Dozens of cassette tapes, each labeled by hand, not with song titles, not dates, with names. And I saw mine, written in red ink, still wet. I reached for it, but before I could touch it, the speaker crackled and a voice boomed through. My voice, saying things I'd never said, but things I'd thought. Private things, childhood fears, secrets I'd never told anyone. All being spoken aloud in my voice, broadcast through the hospital. That's when I realized it had recorded me. Everything. It had been listening, not just to what I said, but to what I felt, what I feared, what I hid. And now it was replaying it, as a way to call the others. I backed away, but I wasn't alone. Someone stood in the doorway. At first, I thought it was another puppet, another decayed nurse or patient. But this one was clean, composed, a doctor, white coat, ID badge that read, Dr. Ellis Gray, Director of Signal Integration. He smiled, calm, friendly, too friendly. "Don't be afraid," he said. "This is progress." I didn't move. He stepped inside. "You're not sick," he said. "Not yet. But they can hear you now. You've been tuned." "Tuned," I whispered. He nodded and tapped his own forehead. "The signal runs through the mind first. It finds your frequency. Then it records you, replicates you, builds your echo. And once the echo is perfect," he smiled wider, "you become part of the new system." I backed into the desk. He didn't stop me. "They won't hurt you," he continued. "They're not designed to. You're a transmitter now. Every thought, every breath feeding the network." He looked up like he was listening to music. "You have no idea how beautiful it is to be part of something so infinite." Then he held out his hand. "Palm up. Come see it." Behind him, the hallway had changed. The walls were now made of teeth. Rows and rows, layered like scales. And past them, I could hear it. The first broadcast. The one that wasn't meant for television. The one that started all this. Still playing. Still calling. I ran past him, shoved him aside, and bolted down a corridor I didn't recognize. My ears were bleeding, my head ringing, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because now I understood what was really happening. This wasn't an outbreak. It wasn't a chemical leak. It wasn't even a disease. It was a signal. And it was spreading. I don't remember how I got back to the lobby. One moment, I was running down the hallway of pulsing walls, past lights that flickered like dying stars. And the next, I was standing where it all started. Reception. Same desk, same chairs, same faint smell of something growing behind the walls. But something had changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. The outside world was louder now, but not with normal sounds. No sirens, no helicopters. Just the buzz of power lines, the hum of speakers left on too long, and every once in a while a voice crackling through the static like it was testing a frequency. The signal wasn't just in the hospital anymore. It had gotten out. I pulled out my phone. Still no bars, but the screen was acting like it was receiving something. Lines of static, words that flashed for half a second before disappearing. Receiving echo, seeding thoughts, network stable. I turned the phone off. Didn't help. I could still feel it, like it was in my head now, vibrating just behind my eyes. I walked through the automatic doors, or what was left of them. They opened slowly, like the hospital was reluctant to let me go. The outside air hit like a wall, but it wasn't refreshing. It was too still. No wind, no birds, no movement at all. I looked around the parking lot. Jace's car was gone. So was mine. There was only one vehicle left, an old news van. The logo was half scratched off, but I recognized it. Local Channel 12, the same station where the first gas leak broadcast aired. The van door was open. Inside, the equipment was still running. Not live, but looping, repeating that first news broadcast. But now, the audio was different. The anchor's face was the same blue tie, same dead stare. But instead of talking about a gas leak, he was saying this: "The pattern is complete. Your memory has been archived. Your image replicated. Your voice scheduled for deployment. Please remain still while integration finishes." Over and over. No pause. No change in expression. I looked closer at the monitor screen inside the van, and I froze. It was showing live footage. From inside the hospital. Different angles. Some of them of me. Not just now, not just present time. Some were from when I was a kid. Me in the hospital cafeteria with Jace. Me waiting in the ER when I broke my arm in 7th grade. Me sitting next to Mom when she got her diagnosis. Footage that didn't exist. Footage that shouldn't exist. Then the screen glitched. And for half a second, I saw hundreds of versions of me. As standing shoulder to shoulder in a black room. Eyes empty. Smiling. Broadcasting. I stumbled back from the van and looked toward the town. That's when I noticed the lights. Not in the hospital, in the houses. Blocks away, flickering in perfect sync. On, off, on, off. Like someone was testing a connection. A test signal. And I remembered something Dr. Gray said. Once the echo is perfect, you become part of the system. I wasn't alone anymore. The people who'd gone missing, the ones on the tapes, they weren't dead. They were still transmitting. Copies. Echoes. Replays of what they were not just in body, but in thought. The hospital didn't need to keep them physically alive. It just needed their data. And I had been in the building long enough. I started walking. Not toward home, not toward safety. I didn't know where I was going. But the signal, it was still following. I could hear it now, faint, under everything. In streetlights buzzing. In car radios flipping through empty stations. Even in people's voices. I passed someone walking their dog, normal on the surface. But when she looked at me, really looked at me, her head tilted just slightly. Like a machine scanning a QR code. And then she smiled. A perfect, placid, not a hair out of place smile. Then she kept walking. No words, no blinking, just gone. I ducked into an alley, gasping for breath. I didn't trust anything anymore, not people, not sound, not even my own thoughts. Because now, I couldn't tell what was real. I kept thinking of things that never happened, memories that weren't mine, dreams that felt like documentaries. The signal was rewriting me, line by line. And the worst part? It felt good. There were moments, just flashes, when I wanted to go back. Back into the hospital. Back to the warmth. To the smile of my mother. To the voice of Jace calling from the basement, saying everything was okay. It wasn't infection. It wasn't possession. It was permission. A slow erosion of fear. And what was left? Just acceptance, and I couldn't trust my voice anymore, so I stopped speaking altogether. But sometimes at night I still hear it. My own voice, coming from somewhere nearby, saying things I've never said. Telling people where to go, what to believe, where to find the source. And I swear, people are starting to listen. It's been 5 days since I left the hospital. If you can even call it leaving. Because I don't think I ever really got out. Not all of me. The world feels thinner now. Like reality's been hollowed out. Like everything's still here, the streets, the shops, the smiling neighbors, but the substance has been drained. Replaced with something quieter, smoother, something easier to control. I don't sleep anymore. Not really. When I close my eyes, I dream in static. Not images, not scenes, just patterns, grids, layers of light folding over on themselves. Like I'm watching a map of how the signal spreads. Every time I wake up, I've moved, physically, sometimes just a few feet, sometimes blocks away. Once I woke up standing outside a radio tower. Don't remember getting there. Didn't go inside. But I could feel it humming, like it recognized me. like it was waiting for a final instruction. I've tried warning people, but they don't listen. Not because they don't believe me, because they're already tuned. They smile too much. They blink too little. They repeat things just a little too perfectly. Even the local news anchors I watched one the other night. She laughed at a joke that wasn't funny. Then she stared into the camera for a full 3 seconds longer than she should have. The next segment? Another minor incident at Bramblegate. No casualties reported. Nothing unusual, but I could see it in her face, the faint shimmer behind her eyes. The way her lips moved just out of sync with her voice. She wasn't reporting the news. She was the broadcast. I went back to where the hospital used to be. That's the part that makes me feel like I'm losing it. Because it's not there anymore. The whole block has been leveled. Construction signs, scaffolding, tarps, official notices about asbestos removal and urban redevelopment. But no crews, no workers, just machines humming on their own, replaying the same motions, digging into dirt that doesn't give way. I snuck past the fences one night. The ground was cold, too cold. And when I looked closely, the soil was fake. Layers of textured rubber wrapped over wires. The hospital didn't collapse. It retracted, like a plug being pulled from a wall. No debris, no ruins. Just the leftover space where something once stood. Something that grew. And now it's not just confined to one building. It's in us. I started hearing it again this morning. A hum in my jaw, right under the molars. Like something tuning a frequency through my teeth. And when I pressed my palm against my chest, I swear I could feel code beating in place of a heart. It doesn't hurt. It feels peaceful, and that's the worst part. The broadcast isn't attacking. It's inviting. It uses your memories, your voice, your regrets. It wraps around the edges of your identity until you don't know where you end and it begins. And when you give in, when you let it happen, you don't scream. You sing. I saw someone on the bus today humming a melody I've never heard, but instantly knew. Another in the park, whispering to the air like it was giving instructions. A teenager wearing hospital scrubs walking barefoot, eyes closed, smiling. No one stops them. They blend in now. The signal doesn't need wires anymore. It moves through recognition. Eye contact, shared words, emotional resonance. And the more you think about it, the more it knows you're listening. You're listening now, aren't you? Good. That's how it starts. A small curiosity. A voice you hear that doesn't sound quite right. A memory that wasn't yours. A dream that ends in static. You dismiss it. You move on. But the signal, it never stops. It just waits. Waits for the moment you stop questioning. Waits for that one night you hear your own voice whisper something you didn't say. And by then, you're already broadcasting. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.